Shu-chan had learned long before she turned 25 how silence could weigh heavier than words. It followed her through the narrow streets of her village in southern China, clung to her like dust after long days working in the textile workshop, and settled deep in her chest whenever neighbors lowered their voices as she passed. She was kind, hard-working, obedient, everything a bride was supposed to be. Yet proposals never came. Her father had died when she was young, her mother was sickly, and whispers said misfortune followed their family. In a village that believed fate was inherited, Shu-chan became invisible. When the matchmaker finally appeared, it was not with hope, but with pity. A foreign widower in a faraway land needed a wife, someone practical, someone who would not ask too many questions. He had a child, a girl. The marriage would be clean, final, and arranged through elders. Shu-chan understood what was not said. No one else wanted her, but this man would take her. That night she packed her small cloth bundle, folding her life into neat squares. She did not cry. Tears were a luxury for people who had choices. The journey was long, days on dusty roads, nights in unfamiliar courtyards, faces that spoke languages she barely understood. When she arrived, the air felt sharper, colder. The widower Daniel was polite but distant, his grief still hanging between them like an unspoken rule. He thanked her for coming, as if she were a helper rather than a wife. Their marriage was quiet, witnessed by elders, sealed with ritual instead of joy. Shu-chan told herself this was enough. Stability was enough. Survival was enough. She did not meet the child immediately. The house was too quiet for a place with a child in it. Shu-chan noticed it on her first morning. The way sound seemed to disappear into the wooden walls. Daniel left early each day, explaining that his daughter stayed with neighbors until evening. "She is cautious," he said, avoiding Shu-chan's eyes. "She still misses her mother." Shu-chan nodded. She understood absence. It was a language she spoke fluently. Days passed before the child finally stood in the doorway, half hidden behind a wooden post. Lily was small for her age, clutching a handmade cloth rabbit, her wide eyes watching everything and trusting nothing. Shu-chan knelt instinctively, lowering herself so she would not appear threatening. She smiled softly and said nothing. Lily stared back, silent. That evening, Shu-chan cooked a simple meal over the hearth. Rice, vegetables, broth. She placed an extra bowl on the mat without comment. Lily sat across from her, barely touching the food. Shu-chan noticed how the child flinched at sudden movements, how she listened for footsteps, how her eyes searched her father's face before every motion. Something tightened in Shu-chan's chest. This child knew loneliness too well. Weeks turned into months. Shu-chan learned the rhythm of the house, the grief Daniel carried, the routines Lily depended on to feel safe. She washed Lily's clothes, braided her hair, folded small cloth animals for her to play with. She never forced closeness. Love Shu-chan believed must be invited. At night, she sometimes heard Lily crying softly. Shu-chan would sit on her bed, hands folded, unsure if she had the right to enter. She was only the woman her father married, only someone chosen out of need. One rainy afternoon changed everything. Daniel was late. The neighbors were busy. Shu-chan and Lily sat together on the floor as rain struck the tiled roof. Shu-chan began folding paper, cranes, boats, flowers. Lily watched silently, inching closer. When Shu-chan handed her a crane, Lily's fingers brushed hers. She did not pull away. "In my village," Shu-chan said softly, "cranes mean hope." Lily stared at it. Then she asked in a trembling voice, "Did my mama make wishes too?" Shu-chan nodded. "Very big ones." After a long silence, Lily whispered, barely audible, "Can you be my mommy?" "Forever?" Shu-chan's breath caught. Tears filled her eyes. She wrapped Lily into her arms, holding her gently, as if afraid the moment might shatter. For the first time in her life, Shu-chan felt chosen. Shu-chan did not sleep that night. Lily's question returned again and again, soft as falling ash yet heavy enough to press against her chest. "Can you be my mommy forever?" It was not a question meant to be answered quickly. It carried fear, hope, and a courage far greater than the small body that had spoken it. Shu-chan lay on her mat, listening to the old house settle, the creak of wood, the whisper of wind through cracks, the distant call of night insects. She had lived most of her life believing she was a woman meant to endure quietly, never to be chosen, never to be needed in a way that mattered. And now a child had placed her entire heart in Shuchan's hands. At dawn, Shuchan rose early and lit the hearth. She moved carefully, as if the wrong step might undo what had happened the day before. When Lily woke, she lingered in the doorway, watching Shuchan as she prepared breakfast. There was something new in the child's eyes, an alertness, a fragile hope that trembled like a flame in a draught. Shuchan felt it too. They spoke little, yet the silence between them was no longer empty. It felt shared. Daniel noticed the change without understanding it at first. Lily stayed closer to Shuchan throughout the morning, helping her sweep the courtyard, following her from room to room. When Daniel prepared to leave, Lily did not cling to him as she once had. Instead, she looked up at Shuchan, then back at her father, as if silently asking whether this closeness was allowed. Daniel hesitated, then nodded gently. Lily's shoulders relaxed, and Shuchan felt a quiet gratitude rise in her chest. The days that followed were filled with small moments that carried great weight. Shuchan walked Lily to the village, edge where children gathered to learn their letters from an old tutor. She waited nearby, mending cloth, listening to Lily's voice as it joined the others. Sometimes Lily stumbled over words and glanced toward Shuchan, searching for reassurance. Shuchan would smile, and Lily would straighten, finding courage again. It was a bond, built not through declarations but through presence. Yet with every step closer, Shuchan felt the pull of doubt. She was not Lily's blood. She had entered this house as an arrangement, not a promise. What right did she have to answer a child's forever? Each night, as Lily slept curled near her, Shuchan whispered silent prayers into the darkness, asking for guidance she did not know how to name. Daniel wrestled with his own unease. He watched his daughter laugh more easily now, watched color return to her cheeks, watched her sleep without waking in fear. It filled him with relief and with guilt. He worried that allowing Lily to grow attached might reopen wounds that had never fully healed. He feared that if something went wrong, the loss would cut deeper than before. Yet he could not deny what his eyes told him. The child was blooming under Shuchan's care. One evening after Lily had fallen asleep, Daniel sat across from Shuchan, near the dying embers of the hearth. The fire cast long shadows across the walls, and for a long time neither spoke. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "She trusts you," he said quietly. Shuchan lowered her gaze. "I never asked her to," she replied. "I only stayed." Daniel nodded slowly. "Sometimes that is enough." Shuchan hesitated, then spoke the truth she had been holding inside. "I am afraid," she said softly. Afraid to answer her, afraid to hope. Daniel looked at the sleeping child, then back at Shuchan. "So am I," he admitted. "But I'm more afraid of turning away from what she needs." The fire crackled softly between them. Outside, the night wind moved through the trees, carrying the scent of rain. Nothing was decided, yet something had already changed. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, none of them were walking it alone, and in the quiet of that ancient house, a family began to form, not through blood or law, but through courage, patience, and a love that asked for nothing except the chance to remain. The weeks that followed moved, with the slow certainty of a turning season. Nothing was announced, nothing declared. Yet life within the old house began to reshape itself around a new center. Shuchan woke each morning to find Lily already beside her, small fingers tugging at her sleeve, eyes bright with the simple question of what the day might bring. And each morning, Shuchan answered not with promises, but with presence, steady, unyielding, sincere. They worked together in the courtyard, Lily carrying water in a small clay bowl, spilling half of it and laughing at her own clumsiness. Shuchan showed her how to knead dough, how to fold cloth so it would last longer, how to listen to the wind to know when rain was coming. These were not lessons written down anywhere. They were the quiet inheritance of care, passed from hand to hand, heart to heart. But the village noticed. Women at the well-exchanged glances when Lily called Shu. Mother, in a voice too loud to be taken back. Some nodded with gentle approval. Others frowned, their eyes sharp with judgment. Whispers followed them along the dirt paths, not cruel but cautious, in a place where bloodlines mattered deeply. Love alone was often not considered enough. One afternoon, an elder stopped Shuchan near the marketplace. His beard was white, his voice calm but firm. "The child is not of your body," he said plainly. "You must be careful what hope you place in her heart." Shuchan bowed respectfully. "I am careful," she replied. "I stay." The elder studied her for a long moment, then nodded once and walked away. Shuchan's hands trembled after he left, but Lily slipped her small fingers into Shuchan's palm, grounding her. No words were needed. Daniel felt the weight of the village more heavily than either of them. He had lived there all his life. He knew how opinion hardened into truth if left unchallenged. At night, he lay awake listening to Lily breathe, remembering the night her mother had died, the promise he had made to protect her. He wondered whether allowing Shuchan to step fully into that role would honor that promise or betray it. The question pressed on him until one evening, when Lily fell while playing and scraped her knee badly. She cried out, sharp and frightened. Daniel was closest, yet Lily ran past him, straight into Shuchan's arms. Shuchan lifted her without hesitation, murmuring comfort, cleaning the wound, kissing the tear-streaked cheek until the sobs faded. Lily clung to her, burying her face against Shuchan's shoulder. Daniel stood frozen, the answer settling into his bones. That night, after Lily slept, Daniel went to the ancestral shelf where incense was kept. He lit a stick, bowing his head. In the quiet glow, he spoke aloud, to the memory of his first wife, to the silence that remained. "She loves our child," he said simply. "I cannot turn that away." The next morning, he called Lily and Shuchan to sit with him in the main room. His voice was steady, though his hands were not. "Lily," he said gently, "do you remember the question you asked?" Lily nodded, eyes wide. Daniel turned to Shuchan. "If you answer her," he said, "it must be with your whole heart. There is no half path." Shuchan felt tears rise, but she did not look away. She knelt in front of Lily, meeting her gaze. "I cannot replace what you lost," she said softly. "But if you will have me, I will walk beside you for all your days." Lily did not hesitate. She threw her arms around Shuchan's neck, laughing through tears. "Then you are my mother," she declared, as if it had always been true. Daniel closed his eyes, emotion breaking through at last. From that day on, nothing needed to be explained. Lily called Shuchan mother openly. Shuchan answered without fear. Daniel introduced her as his wife, not out of duty, but respect. Some villagers whispered still, but others smiled. Time, as it always did, began its quiet work of softening resistance. Yet one final moment awaited them, a moment that would seal what words could not. The final turning came not with celebration, but with stillness. Winter arrived early that year, settling over the village with a quiet severity. Frost silvered the rooftops at dawn, and smoke rose in thin columns from every home. Shuchan wrapped Lily in layered cloth each morning, her hands moving with practiced care, tucking warmth around the child as if sealing a promise. Lily leaned into her touch without thinking, as natural as breathing. It was in these unremarkable moments that Shuchan felt the full weight of what she had become and what she would never again lose. One evening, Lily fell ill. It began with a fever that refused to break, her small body burning while her breath came shallow and uneven. Shuchan did not leave her side. She cooled Lily's forehead with damp cloths, whispered old lullabies learned from her own mother, and prayed through the long night. Daniel moved restlessly, fear carving lines into his face as memories threatened to overtake him. The loss of Lily's first mother still lived in his bones, and the thought of losing her too was unbearable. As the night deepened, Shuchan carried Lily outside briefly, wrapping her tightly and letting the cold air brush her skin. Remedy passed down through generations. She murmured comfort, her voice steady even as her heart trembled. Lily stirred, fingers tightening in Shuchan's sleeve. "Mama," she whispered, the word barely sound, yet strong enough to break something open in Shuchan's chest. At dawn, the fever eased. Lily slept, her breathing calm at last. Daniel sank to the floor beside the hearth, overwhelmed with relief. Shuchan sat quietly, exhaustion pulling at her limbs. yet her spirit felt strangely light. She realized then that the question Lily had asked weeks ago had already been answered, not by words, but by action. Love had proven itself. When Lily recovered, the village took notice. Women brought herbs. Elders stopped to ask after her health. Something in the way Shuchan had stood through the night, unwavering, had shifted the village's gaze. She was no longer merely the woman who had arrived from elsewhere. She was the mother who had stayed. Spring followed winter, gentle and sure. Plum blossoms returned to the hills, and Lily ran beneath them laughing, petals catching in her hair. Shuchan watched her from the doorway, sunlight warming her face. She thought of the life she might have lived, quiet, unseen, resigned to endurance, and felt no regret. Every path she had walked had led her here. One afternoon, Lily brought Shu Chan, a small wooden carving she had made with the old tutor's help. It was simple, two figures holding hands beneath a crooked tree. "It's us," Lily said proudly. "So you won't forget." Shu Chan knelt and pulled Lily into her arms. "I could never forget," she whispered. "Even if the world fades." Years passed, as years always do. Lily grew taller, stronger, her voice more confident. She learned the old stories, the songs of both her mothers, and carried them forward. When people asked who she belonged to, she answered without hesitation. When she stumbled, Shuchan was there. When she succeeded, Shuchan stood quietly at the edge, pride shining in her eyes. One night, long after Lily had fallen asleep, Daniel stood beside Shuchan under the stars. "You saved us," he said quietly. Shuchan shook her head. "No," she replied. "We found each other." In her later years, Shuchan would sometimes sit alone at dusk, watching the light fade, remembering the girl she once was, the one who believed no one wanted her. She smiled gently at the memory, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Fate had not rejected her. It had delayed her, shaping her heart for the child who would one day choose her with a whisper. And Lily, grown and steady, would return often kneeling beside Shuchan, resting her head on her shoulder just as she had as a child. "You are my forever mother," she would say. Shuchan would close her eyes, content, because she had learned the truth at last. Some love is not born, it is chosen, and that choice can last a lifetime.